Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel, and today we're looking at another book, and this one again by Wardle, and that is Self-Working Wonders. This is a really tall book and a really well produced and nice visual book with self-working card tricks, 25 of them to be precise. And I'm going to give you a deep dive, as I always do, regarding the books, as what you get, the contents, and everything that you need to know. So let's do a deep dive into this book and learn if this is something for you or not. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decided to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Self-Working Wonders. So what is this book? This book is essentially a 25 effect book that revolves over self-working wonders, whether it's coin magic, card tricks, tricks with numbers, tricks with grids, tricks with magic squares, etc. You're gonna get a lot of tricks and a lot of concepts in this book. Some may be for others more than they are for other people. Like for me, there's some of the tricks that I really like, but some of them that I would never even see myself using in a million years because it's not my style, but it could be very much your style. So let's do a deep dive on exactly what you get in those 25 effects. So what you get is this. So first you're gonna get, of course, as with every book, you're gonna get your introduction, author notes, etc. Then you're gonna get money magic, so you're gonna get tricks with money. A lot of these tricks will use some very simple gaffs that you're gonna need. If you do coin magic, you probably already have most of those gaffs, and these are very interesting premises to certain tricks regarding coins. Then you're gonna get some card effects, which are very interesting and very cool. So we're gonna talk about those in a moment. Then you get some mentalism tricks as well. So you get magic of the mind, you're gonna get some mentalism tricks. Then you're gonna get some torn and restored or cut and restored tricks where you tear banknotes, shoelaces, and different things. So very weird, quirky premises. Then you're gonna get some effects for children. Then you're gonna learn some effects with cards or with other principles that use the Gilbert principle. And the last thing you're gonna get is some tricks with numbers. So those are the main categories of effects that you are getting. And let me tell you what my favorites are from this book. One of them is an effect called this card, that card. So it's essentially an effect where two spectators play around with the deck. They end up on different cards, and you show that they ended on this card and that card, the only printed cards and cards that match as well. And there's an extra kicker that the whole deck is blank. So it's a powerhouse of a card trick routine with a lot of kickers and a lot of surprises. Then I really liked another trick called X marks the card. So as you can tell by the title, it's a really cool trick with an X and some very interesting premises and ideas going on. Then I really liked a trick called the Dirty Dozen, where essentially 12 cards you play around with a few cards, and the spectator is going to make some random choices, and then you're going to see there's going to be a really cool and interesting outcome of the trick. So that's another one. Then there's a really cool psychometry routine, super devious. It is incredibly devious. It's essentially a way of marking but not really marking pages. It is just crazy how well this is marked and hidden, and it's going to let you do an incredibly clean psychometry routine where you can hand out 4 pieces of paper to your spectators and then know immediately who drew what. That routine is incredible. It's probably, for me, the highlight of the book. It is incredibly devious. It's so fooling, and I think it's going to fool even you as a magician or mentalist. I think it's something that you are definitely going to use. And the last trick that I liked is towards the end of the book. It's essentially a trick with food. So you're going to have different cards with foods just like this. Let me show you so you can see a bit in the book. You're going to have different food cards. Your spectator is going to make some random choices regarding that. And you're going to have predicted from the start. You can have it in an envelope or written on your chest or whatever you want, the prediction of what they would have chosen, the totals and everything that they made, which is very interesting and very cool. Those are the highlights for me. But again, as I mentioned, there's some really cool copper silver routines if you like coins. If you like working with magic squares, there's some really cool magic squares with double, triple predictions even. that are going to be really out of the ordinary. Again, if you like also to do some magic with ropes or shoelaces or quirky objects, so if you're like a family magician that works with a lot of, if you work with sponge balls, with laces, with objects, with random objects, there's some really cool things here. And if you're a kids magician, there's some really cool premises here of making some fun, entertaining tricks for an audience of kids or for a one-on-one or for a small group of kids. There's that as well inside of this book. But again, I don't perform for kids at all. I don't really perform with objects such as sponge balls or ties or anything like that, or even with coins. I don't really perform with coins. So some of these effects were not for me, but there could be, again, as I mentioned, for you, because they are very interesting and they're very well explained. So where do you buy this? How much does it cost? And what do you get? So you can buy this pretty much anywhere. It is pushed as well with Murphy's Magic. So you can probably look at your local magic deals or your favorite magic shops and you can get this book. It's going to set you back $30 US, which is around 45, 46 Canadian dollars with the current exchange rate at the time that I'm making this video. So similarly to his previous book, Quirky Forces, you are basically paying $1 per trick. Almost, it's maybe $1.10 per trick here, something like that. It is really not that. It is very well priced, so it's not that expensive for the amount of things that you get. Even if you're like me and you only like, for example, 5 or 6 effects, you are still getting your money's worth here. Absolutely, for sure. So what do you get? The book with the effects that we mentioned. This book is not hardcover, it's soft cover book. It's a very nicely produced book. It's very beautiful, it's very visual, and I did complain in the previous book that I did not like the pages of it, but this one solves it. This book has very thick pages. You can see that it has very thick, rigid pages, which is kind of the pages that I like. So it is a very nice put book. However, it is big. So this is not something you're necessarily going to put in your bag to carry around with you when you go to school or to work in the metro or somewhere else. This is something you're going to read at home, which I know for some people, they like to read on the go. So this is not really something to read on the go. But again, not a major deal breaker whatsoever. So yeah. Now let's talk about the practicality. So what is the practicality of these tricks? Well, these tricks are pretty much very practical. Most of them use ungimmicked things or small setups. Again, with Quirky Forces, some of them just use simple sequences of 4 or 5 cards that you have to remember. Some of them use simple props like a grid that you have to print out. Some of them use books, some of them use numbers, some of them use coins, so you're going to need some coins. But nothing really too hard to get your hands on or to construct. There's a lot of effects here compared to Quirky Forces where it uses some unusual things like shoelaces, ties, Christmas cards, etc. So you're going to have to make those items. They're not very difficult, they're very well explained, but you're just going to have to make those items, make those props yourself if you want to achieve the trick, or you maybe already own similar props that you can just transpose and get this effect done with. So that is as well a possibility that you could have. So the effects here are very much practical for your everyday gigs or everyday performances. Moving on now to difficulty, we've kind of changed around a bit the structure just for this video. It's not a big problem, but the difficulty of this is, I think, pretty self-explanatory. It says self-working wonders. Now, there are a few moves here and there that you have to do. For example, in the coin magic, as we know with coin magic, there always is a few things that you have to do if you want to end clean, start clean, etc., especially when using certain gimmicks. So there is a bit of work, even with the card effects. Some of them you have to remember a small sequence of cards or a small arrangement or a small setup. But again, it is nothing too complicated because most of the actual procedure and mechanisms behind these tricks are made to be self-working. For example, the psychometry routine, we all know that in psychometry routine, it's not the props that you need to be scared of, it's the performance. So you have to learn how to make everything look clean, everything look fair. Yes, the method is, I know that is marked in that way, so I know that belongs to this, right? Self-working. But it isn't really self-working in the fact that if you don't have a good presentation or you don't have a good hook or a good premise, the trick is going to be utter garbage, right? So you do need to put some practice in. So even though the methodology behind these tricks are self-working, you'll still have to put a bit of work. But overall, I'd say this is pretty much easy to do and easy to build as well. Moving on to where to perform. So where would you perform the effects in this book? You would perform these effects in this book pretty much anywhere, similar with quirky forces that we've covered. These effects range from ultra close-up, like the coin magic, to things that you could do on stage or parlor or cabaret or online. So there's a varied mix of things that you could do here, right? The coin magic you could do at a table really quickly. The psychometry, you could play it to a stage of 100 people. So it really depends. There's effects for every single scenario and every single performer. As I mentioned, right, I'm more into mentalism now. I still practice a lot of card magic and a lot of gambling demonstrations for myself, for my own pleasure, for my own entertainment. But professionally, I mostly do tricks for adult audiences and mentalism-based stuff. So I do Q&As, I do confabulations, I do tricks that are based upon life, etc. So I really do hard material with a bit of more serious undertones. So some of these effects are not necessarily for me, but as I said, if you're a kid's magician or a family entertainer, you can find so many cool principles and tricks here that you're going to enjoy. So that's regarding the where to perform. You can find the place to perform pretty much anywhere with these effects. There's a mix of all of that. Now let's get into the positives and negatives. So what are the positives and negatives of this book? As always, we are going to start with the negatives. So what are the negatives? There's only one major negative that I can find with this book, is that these effects are mostly based for, I would say, a family entertainer. If you are a real big coin guy only, so if you only do coin magic or only do really card magic, like for example, Jason England or Jason Ledani, or if you're really based only into mentalism, like Luc Germain or Louis Laval, a book like this won't really suit you because it doesn't have, it has, as we said, it has a lot of categories. So it has like 3-4 tricks per category of that certain area of magic, and that may not kind of be appealing to you. So really, I think that this is more for the family entertainer or the comedy magician or a magician that entertains at family gatherings, etc. I think that is who this is going to be appeasing to more, because if you're really ingrained into only one style of magic, I don't think you're really going to find a lot of value in certain of these tricks or presentations. Sorry for the weird cut here, but now we're going to move into the positives. So what are the positives of this book? So the positives of this book are that it's very well produced. It has a mix of magic. It has some interesting premises, self-working tricks that are pretty much easy to do. It is very kind of well organized as well, very well written, and very nicely produced. So having said all of this, would I recommend this book and what do I give it out of 10? So my recommendation kind of goes into what I said about the negatives, is essentially if you are only ingrained in one style of magic and one style only, and you don't really do kind of family kind of magic or more general magic, so a bit of everything, then I don't think this is necessarily for you. However, if you are someone that mixes and mingles all types of magic, all types of family entertainment, if you perform at events for both kids and adults at the same time, you entertain every single person there, then yes, I think you're going to find some real good value in this book. So what am I rating Self-Working Wonders by Chris Wardle out of 10? I'm rating Self-Working Wonders a 7.5 on 10. It's a good book. It has some really cool effects for me as well. But compared to Quirky Forces, I do feel that it is not as much in my wheelhouse. It could be more in your wheelhouse for you if you're a family entertainer, but to me, which is really based solely in mentalism right now, it's not fully in my wheelhouse, but I still found a few tricks and a few nuggets here that are really interesting, especially that psychometry routine. It's killer. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Self-Working Wonders by Chris Wardle. If you have any additional questions, leave them down below. I'll be more than happy to answer. If not, I'll see you all in my next review. Have a great one, and bye.